Hi there, I'm Whitney Smith, and we're going to continue going through the security guard syllabus. So, looking here at section 1, that is the introduction to the security industry. So, here on the Ontario website, we are going to go through this. Now, I've mentioned in the previous video, and I'll mention in the other ones just in case you're only seeing this one or, and not seeing the other ones, the PSISA and the standards surrounding licensing and training is under review right now by the ministry, more so because it just simply hasn't been reviewed in several years. So it's time, and this information could change. So as of March 2026, this information is correct and true, and you can see here on the Ontario website. But keep in mind that this information is subject to change and will likely be changing within the next give or take year, maybe less. So in that section 1, Introduction to the Security Industry, we're going to have the section overview. So the course is going to provide a summary of principal duties and responsibilities necessary to work effectively in the security industry. You're going to learn how to interpret and comply with the legal requirements of your occupation, as well as identify job roles and responsibilities. So this is important because a lot of people, if let's say you're like 18 years old and you're totally new to any professional industry, let alone this one, you don't know what's going on. So ultimately, you need a little help here. So we're going to describe and compare the different types of jobs in this industry. So like a private investigator, for instance. So, myself, I'm an investigator. I'm also a security professional. I've been in the industry for 20 years. So on the private investigation side, a lot of people only see movies, right? So they're thinking like, oh, cheaters and, whatever, 007. No, so ultimately the course is going to really describe the industry as it is. We have to work within the law. We have to work within the rules, the laws, and the guidelines. We have to be ethical and professional. So the courses are going to help you understand the different types. So, in a private investigation world, you're going to ultimately see surveillance. You're going to see somebody doing investigative research, like locating individuals, background checks, asset searches, TSEM bug sweeps, where someone might have, let's say in a corporate setting, municipal setting, they might have somebody who's placed listening audiovisual devices within the building, vehicles, things like that. So private investigators are going to deal with a variety of things. Typically, they're working with insurance clients, corporate clients. They could be working with businesses for workman's compensation situations. It could be family. Maybe it's locating a missing person. Maybe it's child custody situation. So a very wide variety. So you're really going to get a better scope of what the world of a private investigator is. Then, of course, security services. So, as a licensed guard, you might be expected to go on a variety of different sites, and you might actually just work on one site and do one thing, and that's it. So maybe you work in retail doing loss prevention, or in a mall. You might work at a construction site. You might work in a municipal or a school building. There's a variety. Like, it's kind of unlimited. During COVID, we saw security everywhere, right? They're in banks, they're in stores, monitoring people, masks, all that stuff. So it's always going to change. It's always kind of growing and evolving based on the needs. But, typically you're going to be in, some sort of a professional setting, and maybe even a residential setting, right? Protecting, someone's property, neighborhoods, resort areas, things like that. Then, of course, we have loss prevention, which is, typically something you're going to be plainclothes for. So you're going to be working within a retail establishment, and you're going to be just plainclothes walking around the store, and you're just looking for inconsistencies. You're looking for people who, are potentially, doing the 1-2 over their shoulders. They're checking to see if, someone's paying attention to them. Maybe that they've stolen at your store before, or they're known to the police, and the police have warned you about, the individual. So you're patrolling. You're keeping an eye out in the store. You're keeping them under surveillance. If you're in the type of store that has video cameras, then ultimately you can be watching that individual from that bird's eye view, seeing if they're putting anything in their pockets or, bags, whatever. Some people stuff stuff down their pants and their shirts. It really depends on, what they're doing, what they're stealing. So you could be working that sort of loss prevention side. And then, of course, patrolling, this could be, maybe for like alarm responses. You could be patrolling, let's say, construction sites or, hydro areas, mines. There's a variety of different places that, those patrols could take place. So, really just breaking that down. Then, of course, we're going to describe the occupation of a security guard with respect to knowledge, skills, and abilities needed to perform well. We really, especially here, we want to make sure that you get all the information possible, not only because we offer training, but we're also practically licensed investigative and security company. So I want to make sure that you not only learn the things that you need to learn to be a successful licensee, but that you're also a professional licensee and you know what you're doing. So you become a good employee to your employer and you keep the site safe that you're working at. Then we're going to describe the job specifications, activities and demands of a security guard, travel, off hours, stress, risks, danger. At the end of the day, some sites are going to be less complicated than others, and other sites are going to be dangerous. If you are in an urban versus a rural setting, what happens on that site is going to be very different, right? You're dealing with different issues. I would say right now, 2026, we're seeing a lot of mental health issues, a lot of issues with homelessness, and you're dealing with drugs, you're dealing with needles, you're dealing with individuals that they are, potentially not in the right frame of mind, whether it's drugs or mental illness or a potential mix of both. So you're dealing with people who they're not necessarily going to be there when you're talking to them, right? And they can, turn and flip on a switch. So, you need to know the areas that you're working in, the risks, the danger. Of course, that could cause stress. You might be traveling to and from sites. Let's say you're, checking alarm responses. You might have alarms that go off in a, 5-hour radius and you're just bouncing around all over. So, lots of different sites out there, lots of different, jobs that are taking place within the industry. So this will help that just you have that breakdown. And then really important here, explaining the difference between private security and police officers. I have been in this industry for 20 years and my goodness, I do not see a lot of security guards who think they're cops or they have this idea that they're going to be a cop one day. And so they are just acting like they're a cop. They're doing things that they think are okay, or maybe they've seen on TV, or maybe things that were okay previously, years and years ago, but certainly aren't now. So you have to know you as a security guard are nothing to do with a police officer. You do not have the same capabilities in any way, and you're definitely going to be held under a much tighter rope in terms of what you are and are not allowed to do. So then the outline, basically, you're going to have the trainer's going to provide whether it's in class or online. Trainer provides the students with a background on the security industry and the stages of the industry as a result of the new Private Security Investigative Services Act 2005, PSISA. So this is what I was referring to that we are currently under review for. So, obviously it's been a long time. It's been over 20 years since we've reviewed that. So, as an industry, a lot of things have changed. A lot of technology has come into play. A lot of different things in society and the world have changed that we need to make sure that, as we're training licensed professionals, that we know the right changes that need to be implemented so that you're set up for the most success and ultimately able to comply with all necessary laws, rules, and regulations. You're going to introduce the student to challenges and benefits of becoming a security guard. The role of a security guard with respect to the public should be discussed. So, challenges, benefits for sure. Like any industry, you're gonna see the pros and the cons. I would say in general, it's a great industry to be a part of. It can take you to a lot of different places. You're meeting a lot of different people. Which is always nice, right? Change can be good, but then again, some people don't like that. So you're going to have to know what type of individual you are to know what type of site you want to work on, what you're capable of working on. And then dealing with the public. Not everybody has respect for security professionals. There is a stigma within the industry that, you're going to get called mall cop, rent-a-cop, all the different things, right? People might, let's lose your career. A lot of people say these things. They don't see the professionalism that's behind it. And ultimately, a lot of that has to do with people who've been unprofessional in the industry previously, or maybe movies and TV shows that depict security as not professional, but you get to be the reason why they see professionalism in the industry and potentially treat guards different because you can change their thought process on that. So, in this, you're going to be doing some of that pre-reading, which again is key and very important. There's going to be lectures, introductory videos, and then discussion. And then, of course, you're going to use that learning journal to, document everything you're going. And take those notes, write that down. It's going to be key for you, especially as you go into the exam, really knowing that information. And then you're going to have a quiz based on this section right here, which is section 1, Introduction to the Security Industry. So hope that answered any of your questions, and we appreciate your time.